Hello. Hello, everybody. Gosh, it feels like a Friday, doesn't it? Oh, it's been a hectic day at work today. You know that it's been hectic if you work from home and you feel like a chicken with your head cut off. Hello, everybody. Ignore my ensemble today. I'm in a lazy girl t-shirt. It's laundry day. Hi, Pokey. Stop that right now. Bianca, Fizzy, Offset Guitar Tech. How is your guys' Thursday going? I hope everybody is having a wonderful Thursday. It is almost Friday. Friday Eve, baby. My goodness, I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in forever. I have all this crazy work stuff going on and couldn't go live because I had to work late and do all that crazy stuff. Um, let's see. Remember, everything is alleged. Alleged. And our opinion only. Welcome to Bronx Tales. All right, guys. I'm going to share this picture. We're just going to talk about some stuff today. I think we've all probably seen this picture at least once. I know I was trying to find it for you guys before, but for some reason, StreamYard was pooping out on me and wouldn't let me share anything the other day. Yes, Pokey. Brain checked out at 3 o'clock from work today. Oh, you still have 15 minutes left? 15 minutes. You can do it. I promise. Hey, Schwa, 2018. Hi, Christina. Actually, Christina, I saw a comment of yours earlier today and wanted to talk about that, about them calling MPD about the pictures. I kind of want to talk to you guys about that and see what you guys think. Did you, Fizzy? You looked into this picture? I actually did too. I'm curious what your results came back as because I'm definitely going to tell you mine. Hello, hello. So we are a little bit early, but that's okay. We are a minute early, so that means we are on time, baby. So I looked into this picture as well. It looks like Fizzy did too. I'm really curious what you got on yours. Hey, Death Valley. Welcome, welcome. I'm really, really curious, Fizzy, what you got. ChatGPT told you, let me see, it could be from bad usage. So I pretty much, got the same. I dug into this picture for a while today, actually. And I pretty much got the same information from ChatGPT, at least. I know that it looks like they edited this picture or they did something to this picture because it's like there's no way you can get the digits to look like that, especially the two. When I first saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, they like went into paint and had their 4-year-old draw a 2 on there with a white paintbrush. But actually, what I came up with, and it sounds like oh, Fizzy, that's actually not what I came up with. So that is interesting that the burners are too hot and it just naturally is looking like that from malfunctioning. So what I got from it is, I'll let you share your thoughts, what your personal thoughts are. But I got from it that basically this picture was taken with a cell phone, and obviously it wasn't up close, so we're zooming in on it, and that you can get this picture to look like this, the clock at least, from taking it with a cell phone and having, unsteady hands, which I'm sure somebody walking through a crime scene is going to have unsteady hands. And that there's actually nothing really nefarious with this. They did not edit this picture. That you can get this really from taking it with your cell phone, standing a little bit further away, having unsteady hands, and the way the light is bouncing off the clock and just the way it's really registering with the cell phone and, the way the cell phone functions basically when taking a picture with the lights bouncing off of it, your hand moving, whatever it is. I usually come on here and show you guys stuff that is completely nefarious, and we talk about, all the lies and all that. I did just want to show one thing at least that looks nefarious, but actually isn't. This is not edited. I definitely thought it was at first. Jeff, yeah, you make a good point. And actually, that's what I went to do. I went to take a picture of the clock on my stove as well to compare it. Yeah, basically the lights flashing faster than your eyes can see, but not faster than the phone camera. It's really just the phone camera, the lighting, all that stuff mixed together. It is not anything nefarious. They did not edit this. So I want to at least show one thing that we thought looked edited, looked like lies and top of lies, but it's not. It is just regular picture that came out looking funky because of technology, pretty much. You know, Fizzy, I don't know if that goes for 1 second. I swear, as soon as I start talking to you guys, my nose starts running every dang time. Rest of the day, doesn't run. I don't know if that goes for microwaves. I was actually going to test it with my microwave and see what I got, but I haven't had 2 seconds to even pee today. So I didn't get there yet, but that's a good question, Fizzy, if that happens with microwaves. I'm kind of curious if it does. So I'm not allergic to you guys. I promise. I think you guys just make me happy and excited. And then my nose starts running out of excitement. All right, so I'm going to remove this one. So, Christina, I saw a comment of yours on another channel. I have no idea which channel it was, but I saw that you commented something about how some people called Moscow Police Department regarding the crime scene photos. And in those, if there were the victims' bodies still within the crime scene photos that we've been given so far, or not, because to us it looks like they're not there. And from my understanding, MPD said that yes, the bodies are in there, and that's what actually got me. Yeah, Jules did exactly. So it got me thinking, like, okay, are they confused? Do they know what pictures we are seeing, or do they think the actual crime scene pictures, the professional ones with the markers and, all that stuff in there, do they think that's what Jules is talking about? Or do they know what we're looking at? That's kind of what got everything in my brain going yesterday with talking about the bodies being in the pictures, who's taking the pictures. I know that they're probably from the police department. Then I had a comment where somebody was like, could they be taken with Dylan or Bethany's cell phone? And at first I was like, maybe not. I really don't think that. But then it got me thinking, like, are these actual crime scene photos? I know they're with their cell phone, or are they just photos of the recreation for the shows? It was thought provoking, and that's really all that was to that. But I'm really shocked that Moscow Police Department said that the bodies are in the pictures. I just don't see it. Hey, Lucy Morningstar, how are you, girl? Okay, Jeff. Yeah. So Jeff said when you look at the investigators through the window, you can see they're using professional cameras, not cell phones like these. And that's actually why I'm questioning, why in the world would MPD, knowing the whole world is watching, release cell phone pictures as crime scene photos when they have the professional crime scene photos? Why wouldn't you just release those? I can understand maybe not releasing ones with the bodies in them, even a toe or a toenail, like just blur it out or don't even release those. They could have released the exact same pictures they did, just the professional ones. I'm not understanding why we got, hi Cuff You, I like that name. Why did we get cell phone pictures? I'm not understanding this at all. This seems really strange because they want to control the narrative. That's exactly what it is. And I've said it before and I will say it again. They will release something, they will drop something that they know everybody is going to flock to and, go crazy dissecting it and trying to find anything they can within it. And then as soon as that dies down, they'll give us something else to do the same thing with. Like, they are the ones who want this to continue and keep going and the attention to still be on this. Even mainstream media is still reporting on this, even after Brian Koberger pled guilty. And I think that's strange. That could be, it could be a technical thing. I mean, that's very possible. It could be a technical thing. I just figured that they would have something with the pictures on it, whether it be an old school CD-ROM. I mean, I would think that they would have it on a thumb drive, on a CD-ROM, where they could burn it, copy it, and send it off. It wouldn't even take very long to do it correctly. Oh, it's funny you mentioned that, Christina. I wanted to talk about that too. Christina says, just like right now, they're trying to say that he's being a crybaby in prison. Brian Enton said he had a statement from the prison AR. He said, that is not true. That would not happen. Oh, interesting. I was wondering about that. I mean, I think it's safe to say that everybody complains in prison, no matter what it's about. I've never been to prison. I've been to county jail, and I can tell you I probably complained the entire day or 3 days or whatever it was that I was there about silly stuff. I mean, prison sucks, especially when you haven't been there before. You're gonna comment or complain about the lights always being on, people screaming all through the night. It is hard to sleep there. Somebody who already has insomnia, like Brian Koberger, when he is able to sleep, they are going to make it impossible, whether it's on purpose or not. It's just how it is. It's just a lot of people who are in a place nobody wants to be, don't commit a crime, but people are there who haven't committed crimes and are being railroaded or whatever the case is. Interesting. I just recently found A.R. Hayes's videos. I tuned into a couple of them yesterday, actually. I just found his channel, so I've been looking at that. But Christina says A.R. Hayes has been in that prison, and he said Brian Enton's entire video is full of bull hockey. I believe it. I don't think that people who haven't been to prison before or even county jail knows what it's like. I know that they're just trying to say, oh, shut up, you did the crime, do the time. Like, if you can commit a crime like that, you better learn, you better deal, you better learn how to sleep. You did this to yourself. I get the thought process on that. I really do. But it's hard when you might feel like somebody's being railroaded or isn't fully guilty, or it's just more gray area than it is black and white. I am a firm believer that crimes that are described in a courtroom are described either black and white, right? Either they did it 100% and here's all the reasons why, or they didn't and here's all the reasons why. But in a crime, there's so much gray area. Like, yes, I'm going to plead guilty to this, even though that's not really what happened. Like, that happens all the time. You can't just pick and choose what you're pleading guilty to. Either you're pleading guilty to all of what they say or you're not. There's no gray area. But in real life, there's a lot of gray area. Oh, wow. I do wonder how Brian Koberger's parents are doing, and I do wonder if any of them will speak out ever. I'm wondering if at any point Brian Koberger will speak out. I think if he does, it'll be like years and years down the road. But I'm sure I'm not the only one counting down the days for this appeal. I'm just wondering if he's getting the correct insight on what to do. Does he think that he really can't file any appeal at all ever? Is he getting the right instructions and the right guidance in this? Hey, Sid. I agree, Sid. That's a good comment. You shouldn't be able to plead guilty to a wholly factually inaccurate crime, in his opinion. And I agree. I think you should be able to plead guilty to what you did if that's what you did. Like, not a whole list of things that you didn't do, just with a couple of the things you did do thrown in there. I don't think it should be that way either. Somebody asked me, they were respectful. I believe they're a guilter, but they were respectful on my channel in making their comment in saying, why would somebody plead guilty to a crime they didn't commit? And their comment was very long, and it was hard for me to respond because you only have a certain amount of words. But, I'm like, that's part of it is, maybe he was there. Maybe he was the getaway driver. Maybe he was whatever, but it's more gray than that for him, but you don't have a choice to what you can plead guilty to and what you can't. Either you're pleading guilty to all of it or none of it. That's it. Christina says, even if he goes past the deadline, I think he will still appeal. It will just be harder for him to get approved. And honestly, I meant to do some digging into the appeals process, a lot deeper than just really what's on the surface. And I haven't had time to do that yet, but that was, I think, a question a lot of people had is if it goes past the time frame, can he still appeal? What are the rules after the time frame ends? Hi, Stephen. WW. Absolutely, Stephen. Absolutely. It's a huge political rating when you close a huge case like this. It doesn't matter if you got the right guy. It just matters the case is closed. And I talk about the numbers all the time. They don't care really who it is. They want that crime closed. They want the community to think they did their job. They did their job thoroughly and correctly. They got the right guy and they're guilty and they plead guilty or they get a guilty verdict or what. That's all they care about is that W, that win. That's it. That's all they care about. I want actual proof that he was there, just like everybody else is looking for. And that's why we keep digging into this. Hey, Anna P Music. That's exactly why so many people are still digging into this. I can't tell you how many comments I've had that say, it's over. Stop talking about it. It's over. Like, listen, we aren't the only ones. And other people that have the same mindset as us aren't the only ones either. Mainstream media is still talking about it too. And they think he's fully guilty. So in my opinion, they're the ones who should stop talking about it then. Not that I want them to stop talking about it. I want them to continue talking about it. But if anybody should stop talking about it, it should be mainstream media because they're the ones who got what they wanted. They got the guy they think it is, and they got a guilty plea. What more could they really want? Yeah, even the guilty people are doing video after video after video after yep. I wanted to just touch on the leak actually real quick. I'm curious what your guys' opinion is on the leak. I think we all knew that it was a farce. The whole, we're gonna prosecute the person who did the leak. They didn't say that. That's just me. But that's what they were inferring, right? Like, there's a leak and this is horrible and we are going to get that person who leaked it. No, you're not. No, you are not. I thought that, in my opinion, if you have a high profile case like this and there is a leak, I personally think that everything should stop. Everything should halt right then and there, whether it's for a day, a week, a month, or whatever it is. And nothing else is said or done until the person who leaked the information is recognized and whatever's done with them that needs to be done with them. Why would you continue a case and do a parallel investigation into a leaker? The whole time they could be leaking more information and just piling it on into this leak, making it 10 times worse. Why would you not stop it until it's figured out so no other information gets leaked? They're not looking into it. All they have to do is call Steve G and say, where did you get the information? And Steve G says, I have never received a call. They are not looking into this leak. How simple would that be? Absolutely. Hi, Tanel. I hope that I said your name correctly. The state violated a court order. How does that just go away? I don't know. And it's not being looked into, and it's ridiculous. To me, Judge Hippler and his courtroom and how he runs stuff was a laughing stock. A laughing stock. Why does Steve G say they're protecting the university? I also think they're protecting the university. I think the university runs everything in that town for however many miles it goes. I think they run everything, and everything goes through the university because it has to, because without the university, there's no people, there's no money, there's no jobs, there's no, it's a tiny town with not much there other than the university to bring in money. So that's what makes their whole community go round and round every day, is that university. So they call the shots. We know that the parents weren't called first. Nobody was informed of these crimes until after the university was informed. It's off campus. Why would the university need to know first? Because they run everything. I don't know if you guys know this, and I don't know if it goes for every university, but in my opinion, allegedly, I'm assuming it does go for all universities. They basically have their own judge and jury at universities. A lot of times, if there is a town that has a university and something happens, especially to somebody who goes to that school, something that needs cop involvement, the cops are not called first. And if the cops are called first, those people basically get in trouble. If they're like an employee of the university or whatever, and the employee calls the police, that's a big no-no. You go through the university's judge and jury first before you call any outside police officer for anything. Yep, because exactly, stop that right now, because they decide what is reported. If it's going to cast them in a negative light, do you think it's going to be reported? No. It's going to be handled how they want to handle it at their university. They'll deal with it. Don't get the police involved, because if this gets out, whatever it is, it could be an R word. It could be anything. If it gets out, that's bad juju for the university. That could alter how much money comes in. I think that's part of it, Sid. Sid says, but Brian has nothing to do with the university. They needed this perpetrator to not have anything to do with the university. Yes, stop that right now. Alumni donate millions. I think that's the whole reason, in my opinion, allegedly, that Showalter didn't get investigated. And after somebody much higher found out that they had these red fluid samples from his apartment, it was directed to get rid of them. because his parents are incredibly wealthy. They went to that school and they donate millions just alone by themselves to the school. They can't risk that. This could not be, number one, a person who went to that university, but number two, a person that goes to that university whose family donates millions of dollars to the university. You better break that refrigerator if you have to, but get rid of those samples. Oh, absolutely, Liv. You're so right. Oh, I love the color of your hair in your profile picture. That's super pretty on you. Lots and lots of SA is swept under the rug and handled by universities. Absolutely. It kind of, in my opinion, not saying anything bad against, like military or anything like that, but in my mind, it's similar to that. If something bad happens within the military community or people, actively in the military living on base, they handle it, right? To me, and I get that it's different and I get that there's different steps taken and whatnot, but to me, that's how I view universities as well, because that's how it is. It's handled by them. Sorry, guys, I'm going to flip through the chat real quick. I don't want to miss anything because you guys have great questions. You guys have great insight. You guys are thought provoking. I love you guys in this community. It's so great. And not just here, but just, in other like-minded creators as well. Oh, Hitler graduated from U of I and the coroner graduated from U of I. Oh, you mean the coroner, the dog walker, the Pope, the that coroner had every job title I have ever heard in my life. I was comparing the crime scene photos that we have thus far with the crime scene photos of two different people, actually. Well, technically three. The O.J. Simpson, Nicole Brown Simpson, and Ron Goldman. I compared just what we have so far. I know we don't have everything. Oh, by the way, hey, True Crime X, Hot Pie Gravy. If anybody's new here, go ahead and put a 1 in the chat so we can welcome you. We want to make sure you are seen and heard. So I was comparing what we have so far with these crime scene photos with Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. And there was much, much less reporting for the wounds as far as how many there was in the Nicole Brown Simpson, Ron Goldman case, but it seemed to be a lot more red fluid that we saw. I know we haven't seen it all, and I do know that I think the bed and blankets and stuff soaked up a lot of it. It is hard to compare them for the fact that Idaho crimes were contained within a room or somewhat. And the Nicole Brown Simpson, Ron Goldman was outside. So it's hard to tell how much red fluid is really there because it could be in the grass, it could be anywhere. But there was a lot. And there was, I believe, 27 wounds in the Nicole Brown Simpson case. And there are, 120 maybe ish? At least 100 probably in this case. And it seems to be a lot less red fluid than I expected. It's still a lot. Don't get me wrong. It's horrific, absolutely horrific. And it is a lot. It's just, I guess I had a mental picture, and I think a lot of people did from what the coroner said. And it just, to me, doesn't add up. Now, being that there were way more wounds in this case, I would expect way more red fluid. I know it's being soaked up with the bed and stuff. I would just see a lot more like tracking with footprints and such, or Xana running and slipping. They said that she encountered one of the perpetrators in the hallway or stairway leading to the third floor. And they said they knew that because they saw or found her red fluid specifically in the stairwell. So if she's bleeding in the stairwell, then I would just assume it's going to continue to drip as she's running or trying to get away from this person, which I don't even, there's a lot to that in itself. The table's not moved, but I don't want to keep going off on tangents. I would expect to see a lot more footprints. I know that we don't really so far see any footprints from the perpetrator or perpetrators, but I would expect to see footprints from, at the very least, Xana, her own footprints in her own fluid. That's what I expected to see. And there were a lot of footprints in the Nicole Brown Simpson case. A lot of footprints. It even looked like in some places somebody was like slipping in it. But you know what other case I compared it to? Do you guys remember the pictures from Travis Alexander, Jodi Arias's victim? He had, I might be wrong on Nicole Brown Simpson's wound count. I think it was Travis Alexander who had 27 wounds. And the red fluid we see in Travis Alexander's is honestly about the same that we see in this case. So although I expected to see more, it did seem to be pretty similar to the Travis Alexander case, which was also contained within a room or two. But there was a lot of footprints in that one as well. I think it's just the lack of footprints for me that's bothersome. Stephen WW says, I still wonder if Xana was the second victim. And it's interesting you say that. As far as I know, they have said that they don't technically know the order of the victims. And I call bullcrap on that for one reason. They should know what order the victims were in. Somebody once said that shouldn't matter to you, and it does matter to me. It matters because it tells the story, and we want the truth. And we should be able to see, by their theory, it was one perpetrator with one weapon used on all of them, the same weapon. So we would see transfer. The first victim wouldn't have transfer. They just have their own. The second would have, them too, and then, so on. So the fact that they say they don't know the order is strange to me. They should absolutely know the order. The only way, in my opinion, they wouldn't know the order is if different weapons were used and they didn't get transfer like that because different weapons were used. And I'm wondering, is that why they don't know the order? Is it because there for sure was different weapons used? And it's very possible. I don't understand how the state was planning on proving this with so much that everybody has uncovered. I don't understand how they could possibly get away with this in a courtroom with jurors unless the jurors were handpicked on purpose. Liv, good point. I wanted to talk about that too. With the knife as large as a K-bar, I expected to see larger droplets of cast off. I agree. What I was going to dig into later tonight actually was I started to think the other day about the droplets we see on the ground. And I've put up pictures of the droplets. I've shared them on videos countless times. But I started thinking about the droplets and I was like, why are these droplets so tiny? The droplets on the ground where most people are assuming that the droplets are actually coming off of the weapon while a perpetrator is just standing in place, those droplets are tiny. And that's not what I expected. Also, when there's a droplet of red fluid coming off of a knife when you're just standing there, wouldn't it look like a drop and then a splash? Do you know what I'm like? Can you picture what I'm trying to say? And that is not what they looked like at all. They were just perfectly round, symmetrical, little tiny droplets. And that is not what I, excuse me, that's not what I expected to see at all. And now I'm starting to think that that might not be from the perpetrator's weapon. That might be from something else. I'm going to do some really deep digging into these droplets because something's wrong with them. Okay, is your name Taratha? I hope I'm saying that right. First of all, welcome. Second of all, I've never heard that name before. That's really cool. Perkins. No, I feel like I've seen you before. Same type of weapon, different perpetrators. They were the same type of weapon, different perpetrators. Interesting. I honestly, I agree with that. That's just my opinion. Sorry if you don't like it, but I agree with it. I do think that it is similar weapons or the same weapons, but different perpetrators. So I was listening to the guest that Lana at Truth and Transparency had on maybe yesterday. It was a little annoying, some of the things he were saying that, you know, we don't really necessarily agree with, but I continue to listen because I do find value in people that speak on something that they're educated in, and I'm obviously not. And even though it's the opposite of what I actually believe, I think that it can be of value. And oh, there's a huge, beautiful dog outside. It could be of value and thought provoking, which is what you guys know I love. So, oh, Lucy, I was going to talk about that too. I'm glad you said that because that'll remind me. But he was saying that, I think his name was Scott Roeder, and he was saying that it looked like the perpetrator took their time and was very strategic and methodical and didn't move very fast. And he said that that's what he gets from what he sees of the crime scene, which I found interesting because they were basically trying to tell us, excuse me, at least the prosecution and law enforcement were basically trying to tell us that it was the exact opposite, that it was fighting and here and running and this person and screaming and dog and this, you know, it was just like chaotic and all over the place. And he said what he was looking at, hello, Wii player. He said what he was looking at showed the exact opposite. Well, then how can you get all of that and with somebody who is moving really slow and methodically, like they've done it before, and like a slithery snake, just calm? And how can you get all of that in 7 or 8 minutes then? Like, it just, I get what he's saying, but I don't understand how it could happen like that so fast. Yeah, they literally said it was a frenzied attack. You're right, Lucy. I mean, and that's what we picture, I think. I think that's what we've all been picturing, is this chaos, frenzied attack. Hot pie gravy. Just trust me, bro. You're just going to need to trust us. It's like, Jesus, that is their theme. You're going to need to trust us, but in our reports, we're going to tell you the exact opposite of what happened. And then we're going to release pictures that show the exact opposite of what we're telling you it looked like. But just trust us, bro. Oh, you're in the Midwest, Wii player. I am too. Stop that right now is as well. I already forgot what Lucy said. Oh, lefty. That's what I wanted to talk about. I never, not never, but in the beginning, I didn't think about which hand they used. I thought about it once, thinking when I was reading the mini autopsy report that we got in the documents, the first time I thought about this was when I was reading that. And I thought, I wonder if the wounds will tell us if they're right-handed or left-handed. I started to look, I got distracted, and I never thought about it again until yesterday. Actually, last night, I couldn't sleep. I was out late at night driving because people do that. And I was thinking, I wonder if they're left or right-handed. And I haven't had the chance yet to dig into it to really compare and see, or if there's even evidence of that. I ended up not listening to the rest of Lana's, so I was curious if Scott Roeder ended up saying if he thought they were right or left-handed or not. I saw some comments, so I thought that he did say whether he thought they were left or right-handed, but I'm not 100% sure. You've heard they're right-handed. I thought, if I can recall, when I was looking at the description of the wounds, I thought I remember thinking the person's right-handed. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought he had said left, but I didn't hear why he thought that. Because that's interesting. I think that a lot of people don't think about what hand the perpetrator uses to do their crime. And it was interesting to find out that that Scott, a professional, thought the perpetrator was left-handed, and Brian does write right-handed. I do actually remember a long time ago finding a picture of Brian Koberger writing something, and I saw that he was right-handed. It was a long time ago, though. Thank you, Victorine. I'm bad. I'm bad at names, girl. Thank you, Dal. Oh, what am I missing? Something to do with the droplets on the light switch wall. Actually, I pointed those very specific droplets out in one of my videos before anybody started having guesses about the red fluid pattern analysis or any of that. I actually put up a video. I'm not a professional in it. I've just been dissecting crime since I was in the womb, literally. And I saw that the droplets on the light switch and around it had very specific tails on them coming from the same direction. And then there were other spatter or cast off that was coming from a different direction, the opposite direction. And then there was some that was straight back. And it looked to me that the ones on the light switch were coming as if Kaylee was possibly on the opposite side, like the left-hand side of the light switch. And my thought was to maybe she was trying to escape and get out of the room, and she was hit in that moment and, brought back to where she ultimately was unalived. But the blood pattern and cast off patterns tell a story in itself, and that's what I find so interesting in crime scenes. A lot of people will scold you for wanting to see crime scene photos, and it's not to see victims. It's not to try and glorify what it looks like. It's because it does tell a story. I thought a very interesting question that I saw yesterday or the day before was, I think somebody asked Scott Roeder if you could tell the height, how tall the unaliver or perpetrators were. And I thought that was an excellent question. And I would think that you would be able to tell. There's got to be some way that you'd be able to tell. I would think you might be able to do some math with the way the droplets look on the ground after dropping off the weapon. And I don't know how to explain this. When it drops, it might, spatter a little bit itself. and how far away the knife is from the floor when the blood drops off of it, and then kind of go from there as far as how tall somebody might be. But that's hi Ro. Welcome. But that is a lot of math and the velocity and the all of this. That's just I get distracted too fast to look into that. Christina, I saw that. I think he got offended too. I specifically wanted to ask him, what did I want to ask him? About the photos. I wanted to know if it was common for him to see cell phone pictures released first as crime scene photos, if that was something he's seen often. Death Valley, yeah, that could probably work. I just don't have the patience. ADD, baby. What else? Oh, I was going to tell you guys, not that it has any bearing on this case at all, but I don't know where I saw it, and I was much younger, so it was a while ago, but I saw that law enforcement solved a crime by the wear pattern on somebody's jeans. That they tried to say, and I was younger, so I listened to mainstream media back then, didn't agree with them all the time. And I don't know if you can actually do this or not, but I know it was done in a particular case. They caught the unaliver in a case based on the wear pattern of his jeans. They say that Bronxy's over here. He's laying on his dog bed today instead of the couch. He's napping. He ate good. He went potty. We went for a WALK. He is good. He's knocked out. But yeah, they found the perpetrator because they say that the wear pattern on your jeans is very similar to a fingerprint. I don't know how much I believe that, but the science they put behind it was pretty interesting. Hello, the done one. Oh, interesting. The done one says, my thought on the cell phone pictures. I think MPD wanted to get pictures ASAP because ISP is 5 hours away. Who would take the evidence pictures? I find it more concerning. ISP was there within an hour, but yet they are based 5 hours away. That's a really good point. That is a good point. Fizzy, yeah, no two people will wear out their jeans the same. It's based on like your height, your weight, the way you walk, your gait, your the way you sit, the way you literally the way you do everything puts an imprint on your jeans. If you notice at the bottom of your jeans, there will be like spots that are lighter or darker than each other, and it's how tall you are, it's how you wear the jeans, it's how you walk, it's how you sit, it's how you it's everything. And your jeans do get a wear pattern if they're jeans that you wear on a regular basis. I found that really interesting. Yep, yep, the same with shoes. Yep, that makes sense. That does make sense. The traveling pants, oh my god. Let's see. Um, I thought Pav's video, I believe it was put out later yesterday or last night, and I thought he had some interesting points regarding the timestamps of Maddie and Kaylee's phone going dark and then the statements from the roommates. And he was basically, in a nutshell, saying, why is there no mention of Kaylee after a certain time? It was like 2 something in the morning. Why is there no mention of Kaylee at all anymore after that? Like, for an example, he said, why is Bethany and Maddie taking Kaylee's dog out? Why wouldn't Kaylee just take her dog out? Her phone goes dark. She's not taking her own dog out. There's no talk of Kaylee being in any conversation, any scenario, anything after a specific time after 2 a.m. And I found that really interesting. That, I mean, it made me think, like, why is Kaylee not taking her own dog out? Why is Kaylee not talked about in anybody's conversation after a specific time around 2 something? I found that interesting. Basically he's insinuating, did something happen to her then, which means they would know it. I don't know if they're planning on releasing more pics. I know they've talked about, I don't know of a schedule. I would assume that they will release something as soon as everybody with media or social media starts to not talk about it as much anymore. Then they'll release something else. I feel like that is very strategic with them. But I don't know if they're going to release any more pictures, crime scene pictures. I don't know. I know they said they had like 200 or something pictures, and we've just gotten like a handful of them. I don't know if that means they're going to release more, or, hey, that's just what we have. Deal with it. Lucy says, another thought about Kaylee and Maddie and their calls to Jack Decor was the dog missing, and that is why Steve said he saw the messages and specifically said something about the dog. That's a good thought. I mean, that's possible too. I thought I heard once a while ago that Kaylee sent a message to Jack that said something about, come on, we share a dog together. And in my mind, if your dog was missing, why would you be texting something like that? But who knows? Did she actually text that? I don't know. I've never seen that, so I can't say she did. It's possible, though. Yeah, that's true, Fizzy. If Kaylee was sleeping in Maddie's room and left the door open, they could have just let the dog out to, yeah, like, I mean, yeah, I have let my friend's dog out before too. Like, yeah, I get that. Absolutely. Yeah, JD did say, what's interesting about that is, first, Jack said, I was sleeping. I didn't know she even called me or was trying to get a hold of me until the next day when I woke up and then saw the police outside. But then he goes and tells his friends, I didn't answer it because I thought she just wanted to get some. I thought she just, it was just a booty call. Well, which is it? Were you sleeping and you didn't answer it, or you saw the calls coming through and blatantly ignored them? Which means, Jack D, you, sir, were also awake, just like everybody else in this whole case. I don't think the surviving roommates were from second number one were ever looked at as being involved in this whatsoever. Nobody that I can think of was like taken down to the police station and questioned and pushed and, interrogated. Like, I haven't seen that about anybody, and that is not how it should have happened. I think everybody should have been separated and then questioned separately and kind of pushed a little bit. I understand that some might be victims or survivors or traumatized or whatever. I get it. Like I am human. I do have a heart. I do understand all the commonsensical stuff, but I do think that they should have been questioned. I think they should have been interrogated, especially Showalter. Yeah, I like Harsh calling her out on that too. I guess my question with her GoFundMe, I don't know what it's up to. I think the last time I looked, it was like 102 something. And then somebody else maybe said 105 something after that. So somewhere above that, which is astounding to me. I just can't understand at this point why Bethany needs a GoFundMe 3 whole years later. Why did she not do a GoFundMe when it first happened? Hey, I need therapy. I need to move. I need protection. I need healing. I need, whatever. Why wait almost 3 years later? I mean, I would think by this time you're moved and, you've been getting therapy, and like, why do you need it now? It's been 3 years. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say Bethany? I meant Dylan. Sorry if I said Bethany. Sorry. I meant Dylan, not Bethany. Sorry, guys. It is a huge red flag to wait that long, Bianca. I think you're right. I don't. And trust me, guys, I get the other side of it too. She went through a traumatic event. If you want to look at it from maybe a guilter's perspective, I can see both sides. I totally get it. I just don't understand why 3 years later, I mean, think of where your life was or what you were doing 3 years ago. It's a long time. I agree. I couldn't agree more with you, Lucy. Huge red flags. Huge with everything about her. Everything about her. And I thought I'm with Harsh when he says I thought that they would have some unity between the two roommates. Hey, we went through this horrific event. We're going to stick together. We're these two roommates that went through this together. And that's not how it ended up at all. That's not how it's been for them at all. Not only are they not like together, facing this head on together as a team, they're distancing themselves from each other, like in the reports, in the statements. It's like they don't want anything to do with each other. And to me, the only thing that says is because you guys weren't telling the truth and being around somebody that you had to make stuff up with, you would just distance yourself from them. Like, I just want to distance myself from the whole thing. I can see if they weren't telling the truth, which I don't think they were for a lot of things, that they would distance themselves from one another as well. I think you're right, Pumpkin. Hello, Pumpkin, if I haven't said hi yet already. DM went to sentencing and she saw how much sympathy she got and decided to go for money. And I think that's absolutely right. I think you're right. Yes, ma'am. Fizzy says, Bethany has been following one of the first rules in the crime. Don't return to the scene. Yep. The comments about Bill Thompson. You know what's crazy, Pokey? Pokey says I should have been a CSI. Do you guys want to know what I've always wanted to be my entire life? I want to do autopsies. I still do. That will forever be my dream, is I want to do autopsies. That is what I wanted to do. So, quick story. You guys always know I got to give you one little story. Quick story is I've always wanted to be a person who does autopsies. So, when I was 18 and of age, I knew somebody who was like an assistant to the autopsies in a different county. So she called the coroner in that county and said, "Hey, I have a girl. I know her. She wants to do what you do. Can she do a ride along?" And the guy said, "Yeah, that I could get up at 6 a.m. to the next call and do the ride along." And um, so he called me at 6 a.m. or whatever it was when they got a call for a body they needed to go pick up. It was a baby that had been frozen. I live in the Midwest, so winters are harsh sometimes. It was a baby that had been frozen in a field on purpose, left in a field. I said, no, I think I will pass. Thank you. Like I had just in that moment, I was young, I was 18. In that moment, I had never thought of, oh, I'm going to have to do this to babies and children that get abused. And like, that was a difficult thought for me. So that's when I was like, yeah, maybe not. Maybe I can't do that. Yeah, it was very sad. But yeah, it's never too late. If anybody, any of you guys, because you guys have great thoughts, and um, if you want to do something, go for it. Do it. Go to school, get a degree, get your license, do whatever you have to do it. But don't keep letting the days and years go by without going after your dreams, babies. Oh my gosh, Lucy. Lucy says she watches like all the, well, I guess you guys can see the chat, but she says she listens to like ME examinations and embalmings and stuff, and people at Starbucks are like, what in the world is wrong with this lady? Oh my gosh, that is so funny. Steve, you're right. People that hurt children, and the other one for me is animals. I don't know. I don't know how people can do that. I have no idea. I would think it would even be cool as just like a part-time side gig to just like do hair or makeup on cadavers as well. Like get them ready for their last appearance. I think that would be cool as well. I love, yeah, like stuff like that. Forensic-y stuff. Animal laws do need to be way more strict. I agree. Yeah, I agree, true crime. I don't think it's something I could do for a living. Love it. I love this. I love this topic. It's obviously what most of us do as a hobby. Whoops, sorry, but I don't think that I could do it as a living. I don't think I could. I would say that working in a rehab, especially in the detox, I worked in a medical detox facility. We did detox, inpatient, outpatient, residential, all that stuff, and that was hard. That that got hard. So I don't think I could do forensic-y, embalming-y stuff for a living. Mm, the smells. Yeah, no, sir, no, ma'am. I don't know, Pumpkin. Pumpkin says, "Do you guys think BK will appeal?" I don't know if he will. Honestly, very, very honest here. I thought if he was going to, it was going to happen like really quick. I thought that he wouldn't hesitate if he was going to appeal. And the more days that pass by, the more I start to think maybe not. He might not. Not in this moment. So I don't know. I don't know what you guys think. Do you guys think he's going to appeal, or do you think that there's something else going on that he's working on, or do you think that that's it? He just gave up in that moment when he said I'm going to plead guilty. He gave up, and that was it for him. Do you think Thompson knows BK didn't do it? So that's why he didn't ask him for the knife and or clothes. Hi, Carol. It's funny you say that because I actually, in a pre-recorded video I did maybe a week or two ago, I said the exact same thing. Did Bill Thompson or any of the prosecution not ask Koberger where the weapon is and any information on the case because he knows Koberger didn't do it? Why ask him? Why ask him in private? Why ask him at all? That could be why. That thought came into my head a couple weeks ago. Maybe he wasn't asked because they know he didn't do this. I mean, I would think as a prosecutor, you would know, you would have a feeling, you would know, you get to see all the evidence. I'm really curious if Bill Thompson truly thinks Brian Koberger is guilty. And I'm leaning to, in my opinion, Bill Thompson doesn't fully think Brian Koberger is actually guilty. And I think that's why in some of his statements, he does there's no evidence that Brian Koberger had any contact with the victims or 1122 King Road. There's no evidence. I want to make it very clear there is no evidence of any assault. I think that's why he does that, is because he knows that Brian Koberger isn't guilty. Hi, Miss Stephanie. I can't stand him either. He drives me nuts. Bill Thompson drives me nuts. I feel like I know being a prosecutor is probably a great job financially and it's stable and whatever. You will always have job security. But I think there are, in so many cases, you have to lie. You have to sometimes, to get a conviction, make something fit that you know dang well doesn't fit, that you know dang well isn't true. For me, that would be hard to do. So I think you have to be a special kind of person to be a prosecutor like that. Or at least him, just because I just don't like him so much. I'm like, you have to be like a two-faced type of person. You have to stand in front of people and know dang well this piece doesn't fit in that puzzle. It doesn't even go to this puzzle. But you're sitting there trying to tell people how well it fits. Like, what? No. Yeah, the tears and the miss me with the fakeness, for real. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. Stop it. Hitler bothers me a lot too. First of all, he started bothering me because it sounds like the microphone is literally in his mouth and he's just like swishing it around. That's so disgusting to me. What I find interesting more so lately is the only time we saw them talk about the victim's clothing is literally in the report that has the information on the autopsies. And it basically just states what each victim was wearing. It doesn't say a dang thing in any report about what the clothes look like, where the holes were in the clothes, what they did with them. When were they taken off? When were they bagged? When were they tagged? Where the chain of custody on these clothes, and the fact we have not heard one single word about it is driving me nuts. Oh no, now I feel like a whole horrible human being. Fizzy says, I did find out he survived like throat cancer or something. Are you talking about Hitler? Now I feel like a total turd. But yeah, I'm very, very interested. I don't necessarily, don't get me wrong. I would love to see autopsy photos. And please, before anybody says, not you guys, but any hater or guilter on the replay, before anybody says, how could you say that? That's disgusting. You're a horrible person. You want to see the unalived and their most vulnerable. No, I want it more for like a medical reason. I want to see it for, it tells a story. I want to see the wounds. I want to see the patterns. I want to see, for it to tell the story of what happened, not because I want to see people in terrible position. But I mean, I don't necessarily need to even see the autopsy photos. Just show me the clothes. That's it. I just want to see the clothes. Oh, interesting. Hi, Spirit Moon. Spirit Moon says, what if some of the crime scene photos are from another crime? I thought of this based on the lack of footprints and the size of the droplets. That's interesting. Yeah, very good thought. And I think what you mean by a different crime, I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you mean specifically the pictures of the droplets, because there are some pictures of the droplets close up, not super close up, but close up to really you just see the droplets on the floor and nothing really else around it. And I think those could be from a different crime scene, possibly. Obviously the ones of the rooms and stuff wouldn't necessarily be a different crime, but I had the same thought of as you. Could they be the pictures that were taken when there was the documentaries and everything else going on? Are these specifically from the crime immediately after it happened when they got there? Or are these more like a recreation type of photo? But that's a very, very good thought. Hello, Slap. Fizzy. Fizzy says, do you remember how they described the positioning of Maddie and Kaylee, legs off bed and such? I vaguely remember. What I remember of Kaylee and Maddie is that Kaylee was on Maddie's right hand side and Maddie was like up against her. And the reason I remember that specifically is because it makes me think, well, then how did you see the sheath? If it was just laying in between, but yet Maddie was completely up against Kaylee, how is it in between? It would have to be on top more so. But that's just from what I picture, and I could be picturing it wrong. I don't remember. I thought I remember like maybe one of Maddie's feet hanging off or something, but that's about it. And I don't even know how true that memory is of mine. I could have totally just made that up. Yeah, the crime scene photos look fake. No markers, no measures. Now, I know they are we've been told they're from a cell phone, but are we told they're from a cell phone because they're just recreation photos? I still don't understand why we've been given cell phone pictures as crime scene photos. You have the photos. You have the crime scene photos with the markers. Well, at least you should. We saw them in there taking pictures, right? Oh, weird. Interesting. Fizzy says, the reason I asked that is because they say they are in the photos, but they show Maddie's bed. Oh, huh. I don't think I don't think the bodies are in the pictures. I know people called and asked MPD, and MPD said, yes, though the victims are in the pictures, and I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Especially Ethan's. There's no way Ethan is in that bed. There's no way. They said both of his feet and legs were hanging off. We don't see him at all. Lucy. Yeah, not in these photos. We don't see Ethan at all. No, we do not. I don't care. Anybody can say, oh, they put a blur because he's right there. No, he's not. That's not. Ethan was 6 foot something. No, Ethan was not in there. So they said Ethan's head was between the wall and the bed. But I also don't understand how we can get that with those pillows up there like that. It's like what they're describing and what we are seeing are two different things. It's so strange. Yeah, they said his head was between the wall and the bed. And I think the reason they said that is because of the red fluid dripping out onto the foundation of the house. And so they wanted people to get a mental picture of Ethan being between the wall and the bed and so much red fluid dripping out of his body in that area that it then dripped out of the house. And to me, all of that is just wrong. Yeah, the bed is pushed all the way up against the wall. You're right, Fizzy. And the pillows are all right there. Like, I don't see how his positioning could be what they said it was from head to toe, literally. Yeah, Liv. Liv says, remember, these are the reports. And well, look at those. I don't know, Fizzy. Fizzy asks a great question. How can that happen? Did the unaliver like smush him up there? Like, how would that happen? How would his head get between the bed? Almost trigger warning. Sorry, guys. They're explaining it as if Ethan's head is basically like, and I'm going to say hanging, and I don't mean hanging in like, he doesn't have any connective tissue. That's not what I mean. I just mean like hanging off the bed, like drooping off the bed, but in between the bed and the wall. And I don't know how that's even possible. Like Fizzy says, with the bed being pushed all the way up against the wall and there's pillows there. I don't understand how that positioning could even be true unless the stuff was moved. But it seems to me they're trying to pass these pictures off as completely organic. Nothing had been moved. I don't know. It's just all of it's just so strange that it's like every time they themselves describe something or say something, but then release the information on it, that's not the story it tells whatsoever. It's almost every time they do that. Oh, wow, Carol. Liv. So Liv says, were the leg wounds ever confirmed? So the leg wounds were technically confirmed by them in their autopsy information. I don't even want to call it an autopsy report because that's not technically what it is. Apparently they said there were wounds in the autopsy, their like makeshift report type thing they had on it. They said there were leg wounds. However, when we look at the crime scene photo of where Ethan would have been, nowhere in that picture do we see anything that would resemble wounds from his legs in the area that they should be in. There's nothing on the bed that we can see. Because if his legs are hanging off the bed, then if the wounds are lower on his leg, then it would be dripping onto the floor. We don't see that. And if it's up higher on his leg, we should be able to see I guess, darker spots. Even though they blur them, you can still see what's dark and what color it is underneath the blur and stuff. And I don't think we see that either. Oh, good question, Elsie. Elsie said, could carved legs indicate a dismemberment? Because why can't it be seen? And that's interesting. I find almost all the information that they give us, not only does it not match, but they don't put in enough detail to like pin themselves down on any description or information. They don't put enough detail in there. And it's like they try and insinuate that the information they're giving is something that in real life, it's really not. It's different. Yeah, Lucy, I don't know. Thompson said BK has no connection to the victims. He can't even prove or put him at 1122 ever. Then why would he do that to EC's legs? I'm going to tell you my initial thought way back when in the beginning, or when we heard about Ethan's legs, I guess. My initial thought was somebody might do that to a man's legs to make it harder for them to fight back, to incapacitate them for, so they can't fight back or be a danger to them when they're trying to commit these crimes. But then I'm like, how would you do that? How would you get, did Ethan's leg wounds happen before his mortal wound or after? How would you get to the backs of his legs, especially with knowing in what position he was in when he was found, if that's even correct? Technically, I guess his legs, they said his wounds were hard to see on his legs because of his position, which I'm thinking the wounds on his legs were closer to the bed, like on the back sides of his legs, and they were closer to the bed, so they were hard to see. But then wouldn't we see red fluid in that area almost in a line? We would see like almost the shape of the wounds. We don't see that. Or yeah, Liv, or were they post-mortem like Liv says? That could be too. I wish they would. They don't pin themselves down to any detailed information, and it drives me nuts. They should absolutely know what order they passed in. The only way they would not know what order they passed in is if different weapons were used, and they wouldn't be able to see a transfer because different weapons were used. Hello, IROC. Oh my gosh, Lucy. Lucy says, I wonder if they went to a dinner and just like tossed ideas out and we're like, yeah, that'll work. We're going to go with that one. Then what's next? Oh, your idea? Okay, we'll put that one next. It is. It's like they've been stringing all these things together, and then it seems like they try and go back in the reports to correct them or prove why they're viable reports or viable information, but then that's wrong. And that, like, it's just a mess. This whole thing is a freaking mess. Well, that's interesting you say that. I think they called the feds and said they need to frame someone, and the feds are the best at that. That's a fact. I think the cowboy people are interesting. What were they doing there? And I also find Payne's own report. His own report said he stood there basically in Maddie and Kaylee's room by himself for a certain amount of time, and then he left. Now, it's also interesting he says that because he's the only one who saw the knife sheath. How did other people enter that room and not see it? Not one other person saw that knife sheath but Payne. How? And then he says, after everybody left, I remained in the room for an unspecified amount of time. For what? Why? What are you doing? Why? I did, Steve. How many of you heard M and K were mean girls? I did. I definitely heard that. And I didn't necessarily heard it like in a gossipy way or from like a hater or, anything like that. It was more just of like, it's a known thing that they were not the nicest people to other girls, especially. IROC says, why are none of the body cams released either? I understand a lot will be blurred, but it will show their actions. I want to know the same thing because it will also show, or we'll be able to hear what's going on as well. I think that's part of it. That's why, because we'll know the truth. Oh, that's an interesting thought. And that makes sense, Lucy. Lucy says that she thinks Payne had dual roles in the town, both Moscow Police Department and at U of I. And I think that's very possible, especially now in hindsight. We see where he is employed now. But I thought I heard somebody say he still has a voicemail at Moscow Police Department. Why? If you are now completely fully employed at the U of I, why do you still have a voicemail? I heard that too, that Dylan didn't care for Murphy at all, and that just makes me sad. I just want to know, where did Brian Koberger's name come from? Where did his name come from? How did they get his name? Yes, Fizzy. Actually, my mom pointed that out too. That they're, and I get it, their families might have a different picture of what they were, what the victims were or acted like or whatever. I know the families think that they were very popular and super nice to everybody and all that stuff, but you're right. When they walked up to the grub truck for being as popular and nice as everybody says they were, not one person said hi to them right away. Not one person was like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. No, we didn't really see that. Yeah, True Crime X, yeah, he was chosen. They didn't find him. Absolutely. There's no other way to describe that. I'm right. There's no other way to freaking describe that. I just want to know why. And then when I go deeper in my brain onto that topic of why was he chosen, then that's where we start getting into Birdie's NIJ study type stuff, right? Like that's where then that would lead for me. I do find it interesting that Othram didn't even get the knife sheath itself to get the DNA off of it. They were only given a sample from the knife sheath. So then where's the knife sheath? What happened to it? Where is it? I want to see pictures of that. Othram didn't even get to take the DNA themselves off of the knife sheath. Why? Because it wasn't actually there. It was only on the sample they took. Absolutely. Chain of custody for everything in this case is messed up. Everything. You think, Carol, it's because BK pissed off the wrong person? I was thinking the other day, um, people mention like, oh, Brian Koberger probably wrapped his car in plastic and that's how he didn't have any blood in his car. Like, stop. But what I was thinking about along those lines is how many times did Brian Koberger get pulled over? We know of 2 in the Moscow Pullman area and then 2 on the way back to Pennsylvania. That's 4 times in 6 months of living there. At the very, very least, he's been pulled over 4 times. So, number one, somebody who's continuously being pulled over by the police is not going to commit a crime, number one. Number two, they're not going to wrap their car, the interior of their car in plastic to not get red fluid all over it. Because what if they get pulled over again by the police? Why is Brian Koberger being pulled over so many times in a short period of time? In 6 months that we know of, he was pulled over 4 times. I knock on wood, I can't tell you the last time I was pulled over. Like, why is he being pulled over so many times? And then suddenly he's the one who committed this crime. But the people that are supposed to test his DNA, they weren't even provided the object his DNA was on. They couldn't even lift his DNA themselves off of the sheath. They were just given a sample. Yeah, like I don't know, if I was being pulled over that many times, I would, let's just say it was only the 2 from prior to the crime. I think 2 in a 2 or 3 month period, that's still a lot to me. All right, guys, I'm going to take Bronzy to the parky. I thought about that. Who said that? Carol? I thought about maybe him doing rugs again. I thought about that too. And the only thing that makes me think about that is the report of his neighbors. His neighbors said they saw him sitting outside of his apartment complex on the stairs with another guy who had like tan skin complexion, tattoos, and drove a Harley. And they were sitting outside together not long before the crime, and they were talking. And when the neighbor walked next to them, they stopped talking. Then when the neighbor went inside, apparently they resumed their conversation. But I want to know who Brian Koberger was sitting on his doorsteps with, talking to, that drove a Harley. Yeah, and him being up all night cleaning and stuff like that. That could be. It could be that he was using a drug, a rug that he didn't use before. Before it was H, and now maybe he came out to Washington and got into a different rug that keeps you up all night. That's kind of what I lean towards, IROC, is they pulled him over, and when they pulled him over, you even hear the prosecution say it. They got his phone number, they got his address, they got his plates, they got his DNA, they got everything. They got everything they needed from 1 stop or 2 stops. Wine, crimes, food, and time. Huh. Say that 10 times fast. Hello, welcome. All right, guys, though, I'm actually going to take off. I'm going to take Bronxy to the PARK. I hope everybody has a fabulous evening. Hit the like button on the way out, if you will, please. Thank you for being here. What is today? Thursday? I might go live tomorrow. If I don't, then for sure Saturday. For sure, you will see me either tomorrow or Saturday, and I will get to see you. Do something nice for yourself today. Be kind, but more importantly, be kind to your dog. I hope you guys have a fabulous evening. Hello, Shelly. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I really, really appreciate you guys. I love the conversations that we have and how we can provoke each other's thoughts and come up with all sorts of things. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. And thanks to the mods, of course, Bianca, and stop that right now. I will see you guys very, very soon. I promise. Have a good night. Everybody be safe, please. Other than that, that's it. All right. Bye, guys.